I want you to think back to your last checkup. Your doctor looked at your blood work and probably said some version of, "Everything looks normal," and you walked out relieved. But here's a number that might change how you feel about that moment. Research pooling data from over 200,000 people worldwide estimates that roughly 1 in 4 adults, on average, already has insulin resistance. And in the US specifically, more recent data on adults under 45 puts that number even higher, closer to 4 in 10. Most of them were told their blood work was fine. That's not a scare tactic. That's the actual research, and I want you to sit with that for a second, because it means the reassuring words, "Your labs look normal," and the reality of what's happening inside your body can be two completely different things. So today I'm walking you through 7 signs, real, physical, noticeable signs that your body uses to tell you insulin resistance is present, long before a standard test would ever catch it. I want you to actually count how many apply to you, not to scare you. Because once you understand the mechanism behind each one, you stop feeling confused by your own body, and you start feeling like you finally have the missing piece. Let's get into it. Number 1. Stubborn fat around your midsection that will not move, no matter what you do. This is usually the first one people notice, and it's also the most emotionally exhausting, because it feels personal. Like your body is working against you specifically. You're eating better. Maybe you've started exercising, and everywhere else, you're seeing some kind of change, except right here, around your stomach. It just sits there. Here's the actual mechanism. Insulin's job is to move sugar out of your bloodstream and into your cells. But when insulin stays chronically elevated, your body interprets that as, "We have plenty of incoming energy. Store it." Insulin is, functionally, a fat storage hormone. When it's elevated, its job is to lock fat into storage, especially in that visceral area around your organs and midsection. So as long as insulin stays high, your body is being told, constantly, to hold on to that fat, not release it. You could be in a genuine calorie deficit and still not lose it, because the hormonal signal is overriding the math on the page. Picture a bathtub with the drain closed and someone quietly keeping the faucet running. You can bail water out with a bucket all day. That's your diet and exercise effort. But if the faucet's still running, the water level barely moves. It's not that your effort isn't working. It's that nobody told you about the faucet. Number 2. Small, dark, velvety patches of skin, usually on the back of your neck, under your arms, or on your knuckles. The medical term is Acanthosis nigricans, but forget the name. Just picture the appearance. Darkened, slightly thickened, velvety-looking skin. A lot of people assume it's dirt or a tan line and scrub at it, and it never fades because it's not sitting on the surface. It's a response happening from the inside out. Here's why it happens. When insulin stays elevated for a long period, it starts binding to receptors in the skin it normally wouldn't interact with much, and that stimulates excess skin cell growth in those areas. It's your skin, quite literally, responding to a hormone that's been chronically too high. And here's what really matters about this sign. It's often one of the earliest visible indicators, sometimes appearing years before glucose numbers move on a lab report at all. Number 3. You're hungry again shortly after finishing a full meal. You just ate a real meal, maybe even a big one. And an hour, maybe 90 minutes later, you're hungry again. Not a little peckish, genuinely hungry. This confuses people because, logically, if you just ate enough food, you shouldn't need more so soon. Here's the mechanism. With insulin resistance, your cells aren't responding properly to insulin's signal to let sugar in. So even though there's plenty of glucose circulating in your blood from that meal, it's not actually getting into your cells efficiently. Your cells are, in a real sense, starving in the middle of a full bloodstream. Your brain doesn't measure how much food you ate. It measures whether fuel is actually reaching the cells, so it sends out a hunger signal anyway. You're not undereating. Your body just isn't using what it already has. Quick pause here, because I want this to stick. Sign 1. Stubborn belly fat. Sign 2. Dark, velvety skin patches. Sign 3. Hunger shortly after eating. If even one of those sounds familiar, the next four are going to connect even more of this together. Number 4. You crash hard after meals. Foggy, heavy-eyed, sometimes needing an actual nap. This is the one people write off as, I just always get tired after lunch. That's normal. It's extremely common. Common does not mean normal, and that distinction matters more than people realize. When you eat a meal with carbohydrate in it, blood sugar rises. In a healthy, insulin-sensitive body, insulin comes in, does its job, and things stay fairly steady. But with insulin resistance, your pancreas has to release far more insulin than it should need to, just to get the same result. Like shouting, because your normal voice isn't being heard. All that extra insulin trying to force sugar into resistant cells often causes a sharper drop afterward, and your brain, which runs almost entirely on stable glucose, feels that drop as fog and heaviness, usually 30 to 60 minutes after eating. People call it a food coma, like it's universal. It's not. Someone with healthy insulin sensitivity doesn't get hit with that same wall after lunch. Number 5. You hit a weight loss wall. No matter how little you eat or how hard you train, the number on the scale simply stops moving. This is the one that breaks people's motivation. You're doing everything right. Fewer calories, more training, and for a while it works. Then it flatlines. Completely. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. There's a hormonal ceiling that diet and exercise alone often can't push through. Remember what we covered in Sign 1 arcs. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. When it stays chronically elevated, your body maintains a locked gate in front of your fat stores. It doesn't matter how large your calorie deficit is on paper, if the hormonal signal is telling your body to store rather than release. This is genuinely one of the most common reasons people describe their metabolism as broken. And in a functional sense, it is, just not for the reason most people assume. Number 6. Intense cravings, specifically for sugar and refined carbohydrate, that feel almost impossible to control. Everyone assumes this is a willpower problem. It isn't. When your cells aren't getting fuel efficiently because of insulin resistance, remember sign 3F? Your brain interprets that as a fuel emergency, even though there's technically enough sugar in your bloodstream. And what does a brain in a perceived fuel emergency crave? The fastest, most immediately available source of energy it knows: sugar and refined carbohydrate. You're not weak. You are not undisciplined. Your brain is, quite literally, sounding an alarm for the one thing that resolves the emergency fastest. Number 7, and this is the big one: disrupted sleep. Waking in the middle of the night, or lying there exhausted but wired at bedtime. This surprises almost everyone, because sleep and insulin don't seem connected at all on the surface. But here's the mechanism. When blood sugar drops too low overnight, which can happen after all that extra insulin from earlier in the day finishes its work, your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to push blood sugar back up. Those are the exact same hormones behind that wide awake at 3 a.m. for no reason feeling. You didn't wake up because of stress from your job. You woke up because your body triggered an emergency blood sugar correction while you were asleep. And that same mechanism is why so many people describe feeling tired but wired at bedtime, exhausted, but with a nervous system that feels slightly on edge. Poor sleep, in turn, makes insulin resistance worse the next day, which means this can quietly become its own cycle if nothing changes. So let's connect all 7. The belly fat, the skin changes, the hunger after eating, the post-meal crash, the weight loss wall, the cravings, the disrupted sleep. These are not 7 unrelated problems that all happen to be hitting you by coincidence. They are 7 different expressions of one underlying issue: insulin that has been running too high for too long, quietly, without ever tripping a red flag on a routine checkup. And I want you to actually hear this part. This is not a personal failure. Nobody taught you to check the back of your neck for skin changes. Nobody explained that your post-lunch crash has an actual name and mechanism behind it. This information simply isn't handed to most people. So if you just recognized 4, 5, maybe all 7 of these in yourself, that's not you failing your body. That's your body trying, in the only language available to it, to get your attention for a long time. Now, I know some of you are thinking, if this is such a big deal, why hasn't my doctor mentioned it? Fair question, and it deserves a real answer. Standard checkups are built around a narrow set of markers: fasting glucose, sometimes an A1C. Those numbers can look completely normal for years while insulin quietly climbs underneath, because your pancreas compensates by producing more and more insulin to keep glucose in range. Fasting insulin testing exists. It's just not part of a routine panel unless you specifically request it. This isn't negligence, it's a gap in what gets tested by default, and now you know it's there. One more thing before you go. I'd genuinely like to know how many of these 7 apply to you. Drop the number 1 through 7 in the comments below. If this is the first time you've heard any of this explained clearly, you are not alone and you are not behind. You just found this later than you wish you had, and from here that's completely fixable. If you want to know exactly what to do once insulin resistance is the issue, the real, step-by-step process people actually use to reverse it, that's exactly what the next video covers. I'll link it right here.